What your teenager notices about the world affects how they relate to it. The increased ability to use formal thinking and your teenager's observations have impact on how he sees the world. And now we're going to look at 3 areas. Number 1, how things are. Number 2, how things can turn out to be. And number 3, how things can be avoided. Now, I want you to imagine 2 young men. Let's call them Jimmy and Aaron. Jimmy and Aaron are best friends. And Jimmy is normally dropped at school at 7:15 by his dad, and Aaron is dropped at 2 minutes later by his mother. And so Jimmy always hangs around the gate to see when Aaron is coming in. And so this has been the pattern, and they walk to class together. But then one time Jimmy arrives at school at a normal time, and 2-3 minutes later Aaron hasn't arrived. And Aaron arrives 10 minutes later, and he's being dropped not by his mother as usual, but by his dad. And Jimmy doesn't think too much of it. He just asks, "Oh, did your mom travel?" And Aaron is not answering that question directly. He just she's not at home. And but then Jimmy notices that this pattern of lateness and being dropped by dad instead of mom continues the rest of the week. But he also notices a drop in countenance on the part of his friend Aaron. Finally asks Aaron, "Is everything okay? Where is your mom?" And reluctantly Aaron says, "She left." "What do you mean she left?" "Well, about a week ago, there was fighting upstairs, and Uncle Sam came in the middle of the night and picked up Mom, and she left with him." "So?" "Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I keep hearing Dad on the phone talking about separation and divorce papers. I don't know what's going on." And Jimmy feels really, really sorry for his friend Aaron. Fast forward a month later. Jimmy's parents are doing fine, but a month later, Jimmy overhears his parents quarreling in the bedroom upstairs. Now, Jimmy has observed that Aaron's parents separated after quarreling. And now he hears his own parents quarreling, and he quickly joins the dots. He's asking himself, will my parents separate like Aaron's parents? Jimmy is worried, and now he can see how things are in Aaron's situation. He can see how things can turn out to be in his own situation, and he begins to make plans on how things can be avoided. Jimmy runs upstairs and bangs on the door and pretends that he's not feeling well. "Mommy, Daddy, I just fell down. I'm not feeling well. Mommy and Daddy have got a fever." He is trying to take the ball in his own hands, and he's trying to do something to distract these parents. He's anticipating that there could be a divorce, and he's trying to avoid it. And the parents come out and they take his temperature, and his stomach is normal. And then he asks, Dad, are you and Mom going to separate?" And the dad has no idea. There's no reference point for that question in Dad's mind. And Dad says, "Of course not. What made you think of that?" "Oh, I heard you guys quarreling upstairs, and I thought that maybe you're going to separate." "But where do you get the idea?" And because the questioning is a bit intense, Jimmy is unwilling to talk about it. Now, children take responsibility for the failures of their parents. And as a child grows into teenage years, sometimes the failure of parents really affects them. And the teenagers begin to learn on how to hide things from their parents. They can visualize what's coming in future. They can foresee painful events on the horizon, and they now begin to plan on how to avoid them. Young children believe everything their parents tell them, but teenagers have realized that they can lie to their parents. There are things they can hide from them, and the parents will not even realize it. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 26 and verse 23, Proverbs 26, 23 to 26, the Bible says, like the glaze covering an earthen vessel are fervent lips with an evil heart. Whoever hates disguises himself with his lips and harbors deceit in his heart. When he speaks graciously, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Though his hatred is covered with deception, his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. The teenager has anger churning on the inside, but they have a way of covering that. In Nairobi, we have a jewelry place called Kazuri Beads, where they make very nice looking jewelry from clay. They make clay, they put them in a very hot oven, fire it up, and through some painting they can make this clay look very glossy and look almost indestructible. But you know, deep inside, it's just clay. If you drop a Kazuri bead, it will break. But because it is well painted and well presented, it gives the impression that it's not destructible. Now, a teenager can present themselves like that. They can cover themselves with a glaze of deception, but deep inside they are crumbling because of what is going on within their hearts. I remember a neighbor's child at age 16 was sagging their jeans, and they were sagging their jeans, exposing their bottoms. And the neighbor came to me asking, what am I supposed to do to my child? And this neighbor was well known in the neighborhood and in the country, and was a bit embarrassed that their child was sagging their jeans. And so as they came to me for advice, I said to him, don't rush it. Don't confront him immediately on it. Let's think through a plan. And so I shared with him this story with my parenting class. As I asked my parenting class one time, how many of you ladies love to see the bottoms of men? And you ladies listening to me, how many of you love to see the bottoms of men? And they said, we don't. Then I asked the question, how about you men? How many of you like to see the bottoms of other men? And the men said, how disgusting. But then I said to them, there is a type of a man that loves to see the bottom of a man. And when you're wearing sagging jeans and exposing your bottoms, and you meet a man like that, they think you're exposing those bottoms to them for a reason. I shared this story with my friend, and he went back and shared that with his son. And his son was so disgusted that by sagging jeans, he was actually exposing himself. You see, when a teenager is walking, when any person is walking, you're like a billboard. You're advertising yourself. And this person was able to persuade his son just through that story to dress differently, because what we look like gives people the impression of what we think and who we are. So we must be very, very careful to look what we want to look. So as in raising teenagers and as they see the world, we need to be very careful to help them realize that the world does not experience their intentions. The world sees their actions, the world hears their words, and the world draws conclusions about what your teenager is thinking or going through. In a very similar way, your teenager does not know your intentions. Your teenager sees your reactions, your teenager sees the challenges in your family, and your teenager can very easily visualize what is going to happen. They may not be accurate in their visualization, but they can visualize the trouble they're coming through, and they want to preserve relationships, so they'll begin to act in a deceptive manner or put up a wall against you in order to be able to survive the traumatic teenage stage of life for themselves. Parents, pay very, very close attention to how you raise your teenagers, and observe very, very carefully to how they are reacting to life, both to you and to their own peers.